Hello, everyone. David, Donna, Katie, Laura, and Maurice. Welcome. We are waiting for a few more people to join before we start. Don't hesitate to use the chat to say hello to one another. It's always good to know where everyone is from as well. But we'll wait a couple more minutes for more people to join. I can see the participants' numbers ticking up. Massachusetts, Ohio, Raleigh, Illinois, if I'm correct, Roscoe, Toronto. So seems to be more people from across the pond than the other way around. So Hayden and Emma, you might have to brush off your accents here to make sure that everyone gets it. All right, let's give it 60 more seconds and then we'll give it a start. I think we're now seeing the revenge of the Brits with more people showing up from London, and I will close the webinar chat window so you can see it all. Okay, let's give it a go. Hi everyone, good afternoon if you this side of the world, which is the UK, and good morning if you are in the US. I'm Chris Mallet. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Body Swaps, and I will be your host today. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about how technologies such as AI, XR, immersive learning in general can help institutions reinvent student services. And how we're going to do this is that I'm going to have a chat with Aidan from the University of Suffolk and Emma from the University of Liverpool about what they've done so far. So this is not evangelizing or crystal ball gazing. This is really trying to help everyone with very practical insights on how to make it happen and also what to be aware of. So let me, without further ado, introduce our two panelists from today, and thanks a lot for joining. So firstly, we have Emma Clark. Emma is Head of Digital Engagement and Insight for Careers and Employability at the University of Liverpool. Emma leads a team of digital innovators, and as you will certainly hear, has a passion for immersive technologies that enhance students' confidence, skills, and readiness for the world of work. Welcome, Emma. And next, we have Hayden. Hayden Jarrett is the data analyst for the Careers, Employability, and Enterprise team at the University of Suffolk, also in the UK. Hayden manages the systems for his team that support students with their career development and progression, and provides statistical analysis on the KPI targets for his team to identify gaps where they can better help students. So very hands-on from both of them, and this should be a very insightful day. So before we start with the first question, I just wanted to, if you're able to see my screen, nope, not yet. There we go. I just wanted to frame today's discussion with something that's been observed and mentioned a lot, which is what is the difference between the acquisition of knowledge and of particular technical skills or cognitive skills and a valuable higher education experience. And the difference is the acquisition of the behaviors that will allow you, the mindset that will allow you as a student to live a successful and fulfilled life. And that's where the value of a university increasingly resides. It's not only in a dissemination of knowledge, it's in the creation of an education experience that will prepare the entire individual for what is coming next. And the big question is, can technology unlock a new education world in which every student, no matter where they are and where they're from and what they need, can get the support needed to fulfill their full potential? So big question for today. And starting with Aidan, I wanted to ask you, Aidan, in 5 minutes, more or less, how you're using AI, XR, and other new technologies to support students at your institution today.
Perfect. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen just so I get my presentation up. And then there we go. And I just want to double check, is that on the screen, Chris? That's the main
Yes,
thing.
it is. It's on the screen. All good.
Perfect. So what I will do. Sorry. There we go. So how we use AI, I'm going to be talking about how we use AI and immersive technology to support student employability skills within our team. So it's not going on to the next slide. There we go. So recent data from our Career Pulse survey that's on our website suggests that there are 3 areas of focus to support our students. These being applications, CVs, and interviews. So in our Career Pulse survey, it's all scored out of 10 on these different sections. These scored an average of 5 out of 10, with other topics such as career well-being, career possibilities, scoring much higher at 7 out of 10 and above. So these were our key targets that I identified that need to be filled. Now, our services do support these 3 areas via one-to-one appointments, workshops, and for these in our one-to-one appointments, these 3 are the most talked topics for students. So there's clearly a gap here or a confidence gap that students aren't feeling confident doing. However, these are only available during work hours, so our one-to-one appointments and workshops. So that'll be 9 to 5 for us. So we want to make sure that we have platforms and systems in place to ensure our services are available 24/7. Now, one of these platforms is Future Me, which is a website we developed with all our resources that students can access anytime, so outside of the 9 till 5. And within Future Me, we have 3 programs that are built into the site that utilize artificial intelligence. The first one being our CV builder. So this takes the information it needs to be able to create a unique CV for a student. So students will input all their information. They can input what sector they're interested in as well. And it will pull all that information, look for all the templates and everything like that, and produce a multitude of CVs that students can build or students can choose. This just makes it a less stressful experience for students. As I remember at university trying to make my CV for the first time, you change one little word in a format and then the whole thing changes. So making this an easier and less stressful experience for students is our top priority on that front. From there, students can access CV 360, so they upload their CVs to this part, and the AI will analyze their CVs and it will provide feedback on how to improve and develop it. So, talk a bit more about your work history here, or it'll do the common things like spelling and grammar and things like that. Or just notice that certain things are missing from your CV that you can improve on. Students will get this feedback and they can re-upload their CV and then see if they got a better score on it, for example, so they can keep constantly improving it. What it'll do as well is the AI will investigate keywords and phrases from their CV, and it'll provide students with a list of their skills that they can use in applications and interviews that they can discuss. And then finally, I'll just move this over here. We've got Interview 360, which gives students the chance to have mock interviews or have practice questions. What it will do is so students will record themselves doing an interview or doing a practice question. This can be based on any sector or just general questions, and it will analyze these answers, provide feedback on the content on what they say, but also monitor things like body language, eye contact, and things like that. So those are three AI sort of based programs that assist students with their employability skills. Moving on, the other system we have is body swaps. So in April 2022, we launched body swaps to the University of Suffolk cohort. And at first, engagement was low with this, but what I quickly identified doing some sort of sessions with students was it's their confidence with the VR equipment itself. However, we overcame this and developed a bit of confidence with most of the student cohort by going to demoing the VR headsets at careers fairs, events and workshops and sort of lectures as well. So that sort of gave a bit more confidence for students. Now to boost engagement, I spoke to the team and my colleagues engaged with academics and lecturers to get this embedded. So the modules that we've got are the interview simulator and the public speaking module. They went to academics and lecturers to embed it in the modules relating to interview techniques and career development. So it was one of today. I did one today. I went into a life sciences lecture and spoke to them about this because they were doing a career development module. So it's sort of, we're looking at embedding it into that. So that is boosting our engagement as well. But looking forward, and as you can see at the bottom there, I'm currently in conversation with student societies, mainly those that are familiar with the technology, like computing and gaming, and this has increased engagement and interest in the software. And I'm setting up regular meetings with them to help them complete modules and be on hand to sort of support if they need it. But they are pretty well versed in this technology as they deal with it on a daily basis. And this will help boost engagement in the long term, as I plan to have some of them in the societies as ambassadors for the VR, so they can come into lectures with me and have a peer-to-peer sort of thing, rather than me as a member of staff and the students. I've got two students delivering a presentation based on VR and how to use it and how they develop from it as well. But yes, that is how we're using AI and immersive technology to help support our students' career development skills and employability skills. Thank you very much for listening. I'll share my screen and hand back over to Chris.
Brilliant, Aidan. Thanks a lot. I have a ton of questions which I'll ask you after.
Mm-hmm.
If you have questions, there's a chat or even a Q&A channel if you're on Zoom live. So please don't hesitate to ask your question. We will have time for a Q&A at the end. And Emma, do you want to answer the same questions? How you are using AI, XR, and other tech to transform student services?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to pull some slides up too. Okay, we all good, Chris?
It's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
All good to go.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm Emma Clark and I head up a digital engagement team at the University of Liverpool, also focused on careers and employability. Just a little bit about the university to begin with, for anyone who's not familiar with Liverpool. We have about 31,200 students and around 8,000 of them travel from all over the world. We're a Russell Group university and we are the original Red Brick. So we're heavily targeted by graduate recruiters, and the team that I'm part of will work hard to ensure that we equip students with the skills they need for the world of work. And to do that, we work to a set of core principles, one of which is to be progressive. And this is where immersive learning, AI, and tech really come in to the work that we do, because we feel that the technology that we use within our service is what helps us to take students out of the comfort zone, to stretch a little and to build new skills. So what I'll do now is take you on a quick tour of the tech that we use. there's a good bit in there, and Hayden, you know, you'll spot some familiar tools in the mix too. But I just want to show the range of technologies that we do use and kind of what they're used for. So to begin with, for student engagement, we have Handshake as our main CRM, and it's also our student-facing engagement platform. It does a lot. For our virtual learning environment, VLE, we have Canvas. And then we sometimes use MS Teams for collaboration with students. So that's in the mix there too when it comes to engagement. And then for skills development, we have these lovely tools. So just a selection here, we've got Shortlist Me, Graduates First, and Body Swaps, which we will use a lot of the time within the curriculum in Liverpool. And then something that's a bit new, a bit fresh, and recent, we've introduced generative AI and a couple of tools, and we've trained up our 20 career coaches to be able to use these tools within their interactions with students in the career studio. So at Liverpool, we have a career studio where students can just drop in when they like, and they can work with a career coach on whatever it is, you know, if they're just thinking about exploring careers, if they want to know what a video interview is like, or if they want to sit down and work on an application. This is the physical space it happens, but it's really enhanced by digital tools. So some of the AI tools that we've been trying out in the studio are Udly, and this is for fun, interactive video interviews with real-time AI feedback. We're also testing out the Career Flow plugin, and that's for LinkedIn profile optimization. And then we have the usual Gen AI LLMs for, you know, if students want to use them, the career coaches are trained up and happy to support them in the use of, you know, GPT, Bard, or whatever type of Gen AI they're using. So we have all of these tools in the mix across our service, but also a lot in the career studio with the career coaches doing a bit of human work there too. So we've got an approach at Liverpool where some of the tools that we use are off the shelf and some of the tools that we use are embedded. So I'll go through first our off the shelf, which is like the on-demand tech that we use. And this is it. So we basically use it to ensure that it's accessible. You know, we've got tools that are on the website that students can pick and choose from as and when they wish, very accessible and inclusive. We've also got tools within the career studio that students can come in, book a quiet space, a safe space to practice and prepare and boost the confidence. So an example now of some of these are in the career studio, we have the virtual reality confidence lab where students can come in, pick up an Oculus headset, go through with the career coach how to, and then do a body swaps module, one of the employability modules there. We also have that approach for practicing video interviews with Shortlist Me, and then also for online assessments and online tests with Graduates First. So all of these pieces of tech can be accessed and work through, you know, individually online, or they can come in the studio and get that added human support too. So that's our off-the-shelf offer. The embedded tech experiences that we tend to curate are assessed activities that go on as part of a student's course or module, and they are designed in collaboration with academics and our employability officers, and then, you know, they become an assessed part of a student's curriculum. And a couple of examples that I've got here, the photo on the top right is just fresh yesterday, a snap of our virtual reality assessment for politics students. We've got 300 first year politics students completing a public speaking body swaps module across the space of a month and being assessed with 10% of the credit for the module on completion of this task. So that's an image of how that's going on. And then the image below is something that we tend to do with across our science and engineering courses especially. We will integrate video interview practice within the course and have that assessed by an academic with AI feedback and with some personal feedback in the mix too. So what we know is with all of these things that they build students' confidence, they get them ready for using digital tools in general, but then they also enhance job readiness as a result of the whole experience. So that's the two ways that we go about it. With the embedded experiences in particular, we work to an embedded employability framework, and this is aligned to the hallmarks and attributes of the Liverpool curriculum framework. So what we'll do through our employability teams is we will offer 5 different types of embedded activity, and every one is tech enhanced. So you'll find a digital tool in the mix there. On completion of the embedded activity, students gain a lot, but also we have a nice new way to self-reflect. We've got a new digital assessment on the go, and there's also an accessible and inclusive digital submission there too, all just because of the integration of tech in that offer. So that's how that tends to work out. And, you know, I can say it and it might seem like it's easy, but it's not always the case. So I think for me, just to emphasize some of the challenges that I know I've faced and my team's faced, if I could pick out any 2 of these, I would really, you know, point out the experimentation and then the buy-in. Both of those things need time for you to get right before you even think about implementing anything. But what you find is that when you do overcome those challenges and you do get it right, you get all of these things. So you get inclusive, accessible experiences, you get new forms of engagement and new forms of digital assessment, and you get scalable activities that really do grow confidence, readiness, and a lot of other attributes that sometimes are quite hard to crack. So that's what we're tending to see. And what you can see now on screen is a snapshot of some feedback from the politics module with the 300 first year students all doing a body swaps assessment. Overall, what we're finding is most students, the vast majority, are saying that they do feel a lot more VR confident as a result of completing the assessment, which is great. You know, big tick in the box for us there with digital fluency. And then we're also finding another positive, which is that they're very likely to recommend the experience to a friend too. So we work on the basis of peer-to-peer at the University of Liverpool a lot, and knowing that our students are feeling more confident in use of tech and are active promoters of that is a big tick in the box for us too. So I'd just like to end on that feedback just because it's so positive and progressive and it's what we're aiming for. So I think that's it from me. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Emma, for that. And Aidan as well for your presentation. It's very impressive everything you've done and achieved. And you both touched on the challenges, right? So Aidan, you mentioned which is interesting in contrast to Emma's. You mentioned the tech savviness and how comfortable students were with the technology. But you also, Aidan, nodded when Emma mentioned buy-in, time to experiment, planning, and logistics. So I was wondering if you would care to expand on what the biggest challenge has been so far for each of you, and also what you've learned and in overcoming that challenge, and if you have any advice for those who are listening right now or in the future.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, one of our biggest challenges was the students comfortably using VR, because VR has been around for quite a long time. You know, I remember being at university and college and hearing about VR headsets, and you know that was something that you'd only ever dreamed of. I only ever dreamed of, but yeah, but to overcome it, it was like Emma said, it was buying in that time to have students using the equipment, having me on hand as almost like an expert, just to help them through it. So I think it's just constant exposure, and you know it takes time. You know, we've had this the VR stuff only since April last year, but I can see with the students that I've interacted with over that period of time, their confidence with the VR improving. And like I mentioned, going forwards, having student ambassadors for the VR as well to help gain confidence as well, I think would speed up that process, because again, I've got more bandwidth than, rather than it just being me being the expert, I've then now got students interacting with their peers being the experts as well. So yeah, that's sort of how we're overcoming that challenge currently. But it's looking very positive in the future as well, and in the long term.
Brilliant, thanks. And Emma, you mentioned you had quite a few bullet points there. So what was the biggest challenge for you?
Yeah, I feel like we've been on a long journey. I think going back to 2018, trying and testing out different products, but we've got it right now. And I think a big part of that it is the buy-in. It's just getting over the perception that sometimes technology is like it's a phase or it's a trend, or it's a flash in the pan. That was a big one. But I just feel like enhancements in AI and how people are really taking that seriously now has given all of the tech that we use a big boost. And you can't ignore it anymore, because if you do, students are going to be left behind. And that goes for lots of different types of technology, not just AI, not just VR, XR. Digital skills are so broad now. But I think one tip from me is, if you can do your research and you can really make people listen to the value of the experience that the student goes through individually and en masse, that's then when you get this sweet spot where you're like, this is a good thing. People are into it. And knowing that the tools now have AI integrated in it, it's got a lot easier, I think, especially over the last 12 months. So yeah, that'd be my tip: to do your research, make people listen, and make sure that you can really show the benefit of what you're trying to achieve, or of what you've already done. Yeah, and you can get there.
That sounds great. And one thing you mentioned is typically about AI now. It's in the conversation. It's everywhere. And what we've witnessed is that, to an extent, at an institutional level, FOMO is an engine for curiosity, and you're probably getting more knocks on your door in the past year than before. But when it comes to AI, if you've been to the cinema over the summer, you might have seen The Creator or the last Mission Impossible. Those two movies have one thing in common: the villain is AI, right? And that's also the zeitgeist, right? There is the opportunity side of things, but also the danger. And I was wondering if you had any pushback from staff on using AI. Is AI going to replace us all, kind of question? But also, how do you feel those technologies are already changing the role of people working in the student services, and how that role is expected to evolve in the future? Who wants to go first?
I'll jump in.
Go for it.
So in terms of replacing us all, I don't think AI will replace us all in student services. I think there's definitely still aspects of student services that make it easier to speak to a person as opposed to an AI. And I think it's obviously there is a digital gap, and we need to do the best we can to get it filled. And obviously with AI moving as quickly as it moves, people will get left behind. So I think it's about having that human interaction, and it gives us the chance to speak to students that need that help, bring them up to speed and things like that. I think using AI and how it changes our role, I think it'll free a lot of roles up. So there's there'd be some things that the AI could do on our behalf, and we could focus on other things as well to help generate more support, and things that we could feed into the AI as well. So there'll always be room for human interaction as well as the AI. I think it's when you hear a lot about AI, it's always, like you say, with the villains in the film, it's always us versus AI, but no one really talks about us working with AI. And I think that is a message that needs to be adopted, and especially in higher education, or all aspects of business as well, that we work with AI. AI is not going to take over the world. We need to focus on the positive and make it more of a partnership.
Great. And Emma, what do you think on that? What have you heard?
I agree. I think if I'm looking 5 years down the line, I would be tempted to say, about 50% of the people on our front line will probably be AI. Just
Okay.
an observation from the way things are going. So it depends now. With me, I'm thinking, can AI do good emotional intelligence? Because that's the difference. I think that's the fear, I suppose, that's in people. Yeah, but I think there's a lot of positives to gain, and for me, it's about trust. I just don't think enough people can trust technology at the moment, just because it's moving so quickly in advancements. And yeah, there's been some bad press, but there's so many positives to gain. But I feel like we're part of the small steps and the change that's needed to amplify that positive voice. Yeah, so Chris, I think one other thing for me is that once you can partner with an AI expert, and you've got people who are running a service and are living and breathing the campus life, or engage with their audiences, but then you've got people who live and breathe the tech. When you get that mix of both together, that's the place where we need to be able to build trust. Yeah, so I'm really pleased to see these integrations that are popping up within products that are tried and tested and trusted already.
So I want to expand on something that you both said in a different way. So Emma, you said, and that's quite a big statement. Like you're saying, in 5 years from now, up to 50% of maybe not the people, but the functions could be outsourced to AI. And then Aidan, you mentioned the fact that there will still be room for human interaction, and I think that both of you agree that it's more about the human working together with the AI. And I was wondering, if you can break it down, in which area do you see AI being extremely helpful and it's going to replace a human time, versus areas that you feel should remain sacred areas of human support? Emma, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think so. For me, it's frontline services, but anywhere that you can enhance efficiencies, basically, or on the flip side, anywhere where knowledge needs to be gained, that can be done individually. So that I see things like preparing for interviews, CV work, all of this stuff now that we might actually ask students to come in and do, can quite easily be automated. And on the front line too, I think with the introduction of co-pilots, and if you start to infuse that experience into existing pieces of tech or places, that's when then I think that's where you'll see the efficiencies and maybe the need for less frontline.
Great. And Aidan, what were your thoughts on that?
I think, yeah, and Emma touched on it briefly about emotional intelligence as well. One thing that is important is obviously if a student is, really stressing out with application CVs and things like that, I think with the emotional intelligence of people, as opposed to an AI, which most people do see as just a machine. So having that empathy that we have as humans, I think would be very beneficial for students. In terms of what sort of roles would it might completely take over, I think using AI is almost like a triage system for our department, for if almost like you see them when you go on websites like chatbots, something almost like that, where it just recommends things to a student. And if it a lot of that things could be other AI systems, like I mentioned, the CV 360 and CV Builder, have a look at this first and things like that. Have you tried this? And then if not, it then can refer to us for our one-to-one appointments and things like that. And again, it can almost book it in for them. They don't have to do it themselves. They could just, there's these times available. Click on one and you're booked in. So yeah, I think that's what I think it could replace. But I think that emotional intelligence and that empathy, if students, I can only speak from the career side, but yeah, if things like applications, interviews, it can be quite a stressful time. Having that human interaction to calm down might be something that an AI can't, or they can't. What's the word I'm looking for? They can't almost empathize with an AI, as opposed you can empathize better with another person than as opposed as you can do with a machine.
So it's the pastoral human to human relationship. I was talking the other day to someone who runs a I can't name them probably, but a peer-to-peer tutor network where you would find a tutor with your children. And I was asking him whether he was afraid of AI, and what he was saying is parents get tutors for their children, not so much for the knowledge acquisition, where knowledge becomes a commodity on YouTube. You want to work, you want to work on your STEM program, you will find a YouTube video explaining differential equations that will be very good. It is that mentoring, that modeling someone, that being able to ask questions that are very specific to a user's individual needs and where they come from and so on. But so we covered some of the benefits of AI. I think we discussed the fact that the change is real and it will impact the student services function and what people do, and there is a need for everyone to start working with AI. But do you see on a day-to-day basis any risks with the technologies? Anything that institutions should be aware of or keep in mind when planning and deploying their strategies with new technologies? Who wants to go first?
I can go with this one. I think, yeah, if you're fairly new to AI and you're not aware of the risks and everything like that, I think research and planning is everything when it comes to AI. Again, it's not something it's brand new to the public eye, I think, and it can be a very useful tool, but it like I say, if you haven't planned and researched into it enough, you can research it online, or you can you speak to organizations that use it, or organizations like Emma mentioned that run AI, and they can identify the risk. Obviously there's a massive cybersecurity aspect with AI, because one of the things you see in the news is people can just type in a virus now, and you could send that to someone, but it's identifying that risk and realizing that that is something that's out there, and teams at the university can prepare for that kind of thing, so there's less cyber attacks or no cyber attacks at all. Obviously there was a big thing with ChatGPT with plagiarism as well. They're just typing in the assessment question and then they're getting a full essay. I think it's, again, we're aware of it now, and that risk, I think it's less talked about now, and the risk of that happening has gone down. But it can be very useful for higher education and universities as well. Things like idea generation, marketing, even just marking assessments as well. You could, I think there was an AI tool when I was at university. It's probably way more advanced now since I left university. Where it would go through and are things plagiarized and things like that? Have you used tools and things like that? So yeah, research, planning, and get familiar with it. And if you're unsure, there's plenty of resource out there to get knowledge from.
Great. Thanks a lot. Emma, you had something to add?
Yeah. So I'm just thinking maybe just broader than AI, just I suppose for anyone who's thinking about implementing tech or any of the bits that we've just run through. For me, I think there are always risks, but as long as you're on it and you do kind of set some time aside to assess and evaluate and communicate those risks, you're generally good. Well, I'd suggest probably 3 things. So when you're bringing something new in, to be aware, I think knowing your audience is one of the key things to do, and know whether, if the tech that you're going to bring in, whether it's an immersive learning piece or whether it's some AI, are the students or are your audience actually going to be into it? Are they going to use it? Because that's the big test. Then if they're not into it, it just fails. There's nothing that you can do. So I think you've got to really know your audience and the purpose and the practicalities around the piece of tech that you're bringing in. And once you've got that, you've done the groundwork, then you can start to focus on the second point, which is, say, just use the people around you. There's so many people who you wouldn't know are really into digital innovation or really into new ways to support students that are tech enhanced. So when you start to make connections and meet people and have conversations and understand what their challenges are, that's when you find opportunities come up. So some of the examples that I mentioned before, within the curriculum in Liverpool, digital fluency is a big thing, and so is the future world of work. And when the two things meet, we identify opportunities then to immerse students in new and exciting experiences that enhance the skills and also get them ready for the next thing, but give them an enjoyable experience. But you can't do that on your own because universities are such big places. You need to find, you know, friends or allies who are willing to try things out, and that's when then you can move it on. So the last thing I'd say as well is making digital innovation a key part of your strategy is a big winner too, because that's what helps with the buy-in. If you can tie it to your wider university strategy also, it makes things a lot easier. So yeah, they'd be my tips: is know your audience, just use the people around you and get on it with your strategy, get digital innovation in the mix. And then I think that paves the way for you to start to introduce the tools and the bits of tech that you really want to try out.
Great. So in your answers, you mentioned different types of stakeholders, and there almost seems to need to be an alignment between everyone for it to work. One is the learners, and you say if the learners don't buy into it and they're not engaged, that's it. There's nothing you can do. And maybe it's because you didn't pick the right tool, or maybe because you didn't focus on the right audience. Then you have the staff, so that are going to support it. So the technology champion that are actually going to help you to disseminate it at the scale of the university. And then you have the leadership who needs to buy in. We have a question from the chat from an anonymous attendee, which I get is on YouTube. What pushback, if any, do you typically get from leadership on those? Emma, I don't know if you want to go first, or Hayden, if you have something here.
Go on, Emma.
Yeah, I'm thinking I get this one a lot, but whether they want to know whether you know, it's a safe and secure experience for students to do. There's always a lot of information security, where universities are on edge a lot, for many reasons, and that's probably the biggest one. You know, is the data secure? Will the students be safe? And as soon as you can kind of answer those questions confidently, then you tend to, you know, they back off a little bit. They're always the number one priority for the more senior stakeholders. They'll always want to know, you know, what's going on with the data, and is it a secure and safe space for that. So yeah, that would be my thing, to just make sure you always check out and any policies, guidelines, even connecting those people with the questions to the experts. As I mentioned before, you know, if we're working with Shortlist Me, we've got partners there, Handshake, Body Swaps. We can easily connect to experts who are then willing to just have a conversation and get technical if the needs be. So I'd say that's probably the main one for me, Chris.
That's interesting. So that's something that probably has to come from the vendor, to not only think about this is my product and the learning performance, but also this is how I'm going to reassure the institution on data and privacy. Hayden, do you have something to add to that one?
So similar. I've not had pushback from leadership in terms of implementing this this technology or immersive technology or even AI. It's mainly like Emma mentioned, it's around security and things like that. But when we did, because we've got Handshake as well, and obviously when we did Body Swaps, I was basically on the front line in helping implement these things. And in my career background, you know, I've worked in insurance where data protection, GDPR, you know, is the utmost highest responsibility. So I was quite well versed in that. So, you know, I met with data protection team, emailed them back and forth, asking them loads of questions. And, you know, it was, you know, I then take this to leadership, and then we get that. Another thing that we do get is just is it going to be engaging for students? Which again is one of the challenges that I've spoke about, but it's ensuring that, again, I've got the right plans, everything in place, marketed correctly, and everything like that to help students engage with us. Because, you know, without student engagement in student services, I don't think there would be student services. So you've got to, you've got to make sure everyone's engaged. So we just got to make sure anything that we are doing is engaging students and is helping students and supporting students. And I think we've got to take that message across. Yeah.
And so we had one slide from Emma that was specifically on the feedback for students from students on body swaps. But in general, now that you've tried and tested many such technologies, what's been the feedback from students so far, and is there anything to learn from it for other institutions?
I think what we've had from body swaps has been very positive in terms of immersive skills development and things like that. I think it kind of, it's a bit of a smaller scale than what Emma has at Liverpool, but again, we get the similar thing that the confidence always improves with this. So students have, the students that have engaged have found it very useful. Same goes with our other ones, like our CV builder, CV 360, and there's always positive feedback with those. And even with our one-to-one appointments, when we talk about CVs, applications, interview skills and things like that, we always get positive feedback. Last year, across all of our one-to-one appointments, we received 100% positive feedback, which was an outstanding achievement for us. But but going on that, in terms of the AI, again, it always leads to something else. So they do CV builder, they do CV 360, and then they engage with something else on our platform because they found it useful. So it's a snowball effect. They find one thing, doesn't matter what it is on what support service we offer, it's always a snowball effect. They're like, oh, that was really useful, we'll go back. And now we've quite recently got our own physical space at the University of Suffolk for our careers team. So that's now, you see students when last week I went into the Computing Society to meet them about the VR, and within the space of 10 minutes, they all came down to all down to the physical space. So it's all a snowball effect. So it's all positive that we've had.
It's interesting. So you have this idea of at the end of the day, it's not about the tech itself. It's about every student's finding individual value for themselves, for their own future in a technology, and then every item that you have on your portfolio of apps or techs serves as a potential gateway into the rest of the services provided by student services. Have you, and maybe that's one for Emma, so the levels of feedback are good, but the volume, has that improved? Do you find that more students are engaging now, or is engagement overall still an issue from a percentage of students engaged, I'd say?
Yeah, so for the drop-ins, over a 2-year period, they doubled. So not as vast as the embedded activity. So I think what we found is that it sparked curiosity in the first year, when people are like, oh, I wonder what they're looking at, and then more students would book on. It was word of mouth, I'd say. And then we doubled the amount of students. We might have had 50 in the first year and then 100 the second year, just dropping in to try it out. But the reason that we have had success recently is because we're just making them do it as part of an assessment. We're taking them out of the comfort zone because that's what they need. So that specific example of politics students, for them to be good public speakers, they have to be taken out into an immersive experience that's as close to the actual thing as possible for them to be able to stretch. And that's what it's all about. So the feedback there, 300 first year students going through it, it's all new, they're all doing it, and they're telling us that they enjoyed it. So yeah, we've made some adaptations to make it accessible for some, and that's been fine. Every student's been able to do it, and then that's how we scale. So by getting it into the curriculum, by having it as an assessed part of a module that ticks the box for confidence in public speaking, that's how then we grow it further. And we tend to do that with a lot of our employability strategy at Liverpool. Is it will only scale when it's in the curriculum. So yeah,
That's an interesting one. I don't know if you saw the question from Richard in the chat, who said, what is a good adoption strategy? He talked about body swaps, but is body swaps integrated into a career development program or a curriculum? And from what you're saying, I'm getting that there is the best way to scale is obviously for it to be integrated in the curriculum, because then it's mandatory. Are you finding that there is a general trend towards more and more things typically delivered by student services to still be delivered by student services, but are now integrated in the curriculum as opposed to a voluntary external service?
Yeah, for employability, yeah.
Okay.
But it's a bit of a mix, and it'll be blended. So, you know, a lot of it will still be face to face, some virtual. The immersive seems to be the cutting edge way to bring
Great.
digital into the curriculum. So yeah.
Great. I want to ask you both one last double question, which is in a couple of sentences. One, can you, when you imagine your student services in 5 years, you know, what will it be like? How will it be maybe a lot better? You know, coming back to the question at the beginning. So, student services in 5 years, and two, coming back to today for institutions that are just starting now on their journey, what's the single most important piece of advice you could give them? Hayden, are you ready for that one, for a double one?
I'm ready for one.
Okay, go for one then.
The other one will probably come as I'm saying the other one. So in terms of the next 5 years, I think I mean, in the UK currently, there's a lot around the student finances and things like that currently. So with us in the next 5 years, I think it's just, you know, us having a solution to all those problems that seem to come off. We've got ones currently with because recently there's been you know, students only have like 50p to do their shopping a week or something like that. Whereas, you know, we do things like placement opportunities within our team and with the external university team. And I think it's preparing for those things that happen that perhaps students can't get from, you know, the government schemes and things like that then we supply and we do. So I think it's, you know, if the student ever has an issue, they know exactly where to go, who to go to, regardless. So I think that's where we are in the next 5 years. In terms of important advice, was that based around the AI or just in general in terms of
I think in general, in terms of the adoption of new technology and how to scale them in a way that is successful?
I'd say in 2 words, research and planning. And yeah,
Brilliant.
research and planning before you implement, because again, I think sorry, I'm going off now, more than 2 words. So I think for me, looking at especially me implementing the new systems that we've got in place and things like that, a lot of research and planning, and I think we all fall trap into, oh, it must be absolutely perfect before it goes out. The issue with that is when it goes out, it might not be perfect because someone might spot something that you've not spotted, kind of thing. I'm going to get a bit meta now, but like AI, we require information in order to make a decision, in order to advise and support, or should I say AI is like us in that sense. So, you know, there's always going to be things that you're not thought of, but in order, you know, be adaptable to those situations, you know, and do as much as you can. As long as you've done everything you can before you will implement, it'll be a lot easier to then adapt and make changes where you can. I think that's my advice on that one.
Fantastic, thanks, Aidan. And Emma, a few last words from you as well.
Yeah, so I think my final thoughts are that we're going to see more and more automation, and I think AI will do a lot of heavy lifting, but I do think that will free up resource rather than replace it, you know, so it can be used where the human element needed more, with this high value. And I do think that there'll be a shift in student services, and I am quite thinking it could, if it excels at the rate it is now, it could be in 5 years' time that 50% of processes are automated. Where the people go behind them, hopefully, is where they're needed most. So that was my thought about what it would look like in 5 years. And then I suppose I'm just with the tip that I give, I'm always so surprised at how we're all using different things to do the same work, and that sometimes within your network, whether you're, you know, a university or a higher education institution or a school or a business, we use the same tools. We just have slightly different audiences, but I think when you come together through the power of networks and communities, and you know, you can talk about different adaptations of how you apply tech. That's then when you become inspired, and you don't need to know everything. You just need to know enough to have an idea, and then to use the people around you to build and grow that idea. That would be my big suggestions. Just scope out and think big, connect with people, and then just start to trial and test. And you know, not everything works all in one go at once, but you'll always get a few things that stick, and that's where the success lies then.
Fantastic. So there's a story between you and Aidan here, which is like research, plan, aim big, but then just go and do it and find people to help you out. That's fantastic. Thank you both. I wanted to end with a few slides, and I have 5 minutes to present 15 minutes worth of slides. So I will speak very fast with my French accent. Please do forgive me for that. So I want to summarize a little bit what we have, what we've seen. So you should be able to see my screen now. So the first thing maybe with AI and those technologies to mention that we're not talking about a hammer looking for a nail. We are talking about real institutional challenges. And those are some that we have heard talking with some of the institutions we work with. So students are increasingly diverse, which is great, but the needs in terms of accessibility, level of language, financial pressure, you mentioned that, Hayden, means that student services need to cater to a broader audience. Mental health is a big one. I think 71% of students struggle with mental health. So increasingly, the responsibility of the institution around that to provide a fulfilling learning experience and build resilient human beings for the future is an important one. The competition is increasing from, you know, online education provider as well as internationally. And then finally, obviously, the employers increasingly report a gap in soft skills, which you can attribute that to COVID, to social media, but whatever it is, students are often ready with the knowledge, but not ready with the behaviors. And that's where student services become more and more important. And so you need to tackle all of those nails with less resources or with very limited resources. And so this is where AI can help, actually. First one is engagement. I think you both mentioned it. If you research, plan, found the right supporters for technology, you can engage students better. So students will report better levels of engagement, and you can engage more. And I think that's the biggest part of the student services mission. Then AI can be used to personalize the content that it delivered, the way it is delivered, to adapt to needs and learning styles. And finally, Aidan, you insisted on that. It is about a lot of those repetitive frontline services being replaced by 24/7 intelligent support, so as to free up resources for high impact human support. And that's where the collaboration also between AI and human exists, is AI takes away some of the repetitive tasks, the triage that you mentioned, and frees up some resources. So we work with 200 institutions globally, the vast majority of them in higher ed. And so we've been asking ourselves, when it comes to body swaps, where do we draw the line between human and AI? And you have two extremes, right? One extreme, the old world, when everything is scripted. Imagine the whole body swaps content is scripted. It's not really personalized, as in, it does not serve, a special education needs learner, an English as a second language learner, an MBA, a non-registered nurse, a doctor, and so on. So it's lacking the personalization. It can become quite repetitive, and there's this idea of one size fits all. So that doesn't work. But on the other end, if you have a product that is 100% generative, you're giving away too much of the educator's responsibility, because generative practice is not learning. If you're learning to play the piano, for example, it's not enough to play a music sheet and listen back to yourself and get data. You need someone to teach you how to sit, how to place your hands, and to motivate you week after week. And that's the difference. That's why the human element is important. Personalization of learning is good, but you also need consistency between the learners so that everyone has the same experience, and also so that the data is meaningful. And finally, something that is too generative is not very controlled. And so drawing this line is difficult. So what we're doing is we're taking in baby step. And so the first level was to use AI to generate a model answer in a job interview question, one that is very specific to what you have said. In that example, I think I had said that one of my weakness was not being able to separate work and private life. And it's telling me an answer that is in relation to that weakness, not to how to answer the weakness question in general. But what we're doing is we need every AI feature to improve learning performance, to safeguard psychological safety, and to carry no bias. And so the way we guarantee that is we have a network of 20 institutions that will test the AI features before everyone else. And only when we get over 90% thumbs up and 0% inappropriate flags do we finally release a feature. But then you can start using AI for more interesting things, right? And just generating feedback. You can start analyzing in details, in that case, strategy to answer to an angry patient. So AI can provide a mentor-like a sophistication of feedback that is quite interesting. And again, does not replace the human, but allows for this experiential homework, like hyper-personalized, hyper-safe practice. And that's just where we're starting. I think the next things that are coming is generative conversations that are safe, creating your own interview questions or your own Q&A in public speaking, debriefing with an AI coach on how you feel, what you think you've learned, where you need to improve, and then progressively move to open-ended chats. The holy grail of AI is adaptive learning program generation, so that every learner, let's say they want to practice job interview ahead of a big interview, gets a personalized program on where to start. So bit of a shameless plug for Bodyswaps here. We have new content coming up soon: negotiation, conflict management, workplace communication, teamwork, as well as growth mindset and resilience. So all of this very relevant for student services. And one last slide before I hand over to Molly, who you've seen and who has something to say, is going back to the initial question: can technology unlock a world in which every student and everywhere gets the support they need? I wanted to go back to this model, which you may or may not be familiar with. That's the University of the Future, according to Michael Crow from the University of Arizona. And the idea is the University of the Future is organized as an onion, and the heart is the knowledge still, but then every layer is in concentric circle, and the further away you go from the center, the more digital the experience is. And so the MOOC, massive online courses, historically are the very edge of this. Everyone can get a physics degree from Harvard, and that sounded beautiful, but MOOCs didn't work, right? And how come getting a free degree from Harvard didn't work? The reason for that is it was lacking the levels of engagement. That is the difference between acquiring knowledge and having a learning experience, an education experience. And fundamentally, where AI and XR can help is to make that external layer, that ultimate accessibility, as engaging as what people will get on the campus. And so if, as an industry, we are able to engage people remotely to the same level, then we will be, one step further to SDG number 4, which is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education for all. So I hope this wraps it up nicely. And finally, Molly, if you wanted to jump in to discuss the discovery package for the last minute.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. I'm Molly, and I'm on the commercial team at Bodyswaps. I just wanted to make everyone aware of this discovery package. We've created it for institutions who are new to Bodyswaps and want to pilot. So it's based on our findings from a pilot that we conducted this year alongside Meta. During this, 106 institutions were awarded 2 VR headsets and given unlimited access to Bodyswaps for 3 months. And it generated some really great results. And we've essentially created a package from this so that institutions can pilot body swaps as effectively as possible. So this discovery package, it allows you full access to body swaps for 6 months with 300 learners. And we found that that's the optimal number and the optimal time to ensure success. And then we'll also loan you 2 headsets as well that you can keep if you move forward with body swaps in the future. And we'll provide you with that expert support and those learnings that we've already kind of gathered from that Meta Pilot grant. So if anybody is interested, please do follow that QR code or go to the link and express your interest, and we'll be in touch. But yeah, thank you. Back to you, Chris.
Brilliant, Molly. Thanks a lot, and thanks for the thumbs ups on the chat. Apologies for running a few minutes over, but I couldn't stop Hayden and Emma because it was just too interesting. So thanks a lot, Hayden and Emma, again for all your insights today. Very practical, very hands-on, and very enthusiastic as well. So that's fantastic. Lots of details here on how to find us. If you want to receive our newsletter, you can just scan the QR code on the bottom right. Otherwise, any questions, just shoot me an email to chris@bodyswaps.co. Thanks again, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.